everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Talk of the Town. This is a podcast where we talk about all things media, creators, business, and more. My name is Tristin. I'm the host of the podcast. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're returning from previous episodes of the podcast, thank you so much for stopping by and listening to a brand new episode of the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to Ashwant from a company called Social Current. They match impact organizations, nonprofits, and purpose-driven brands with creators on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube in order to drive awareness, get out votes, and increase impact in society today. I think that this is a really great conversation. It blends, activist plus, the world of content and influencing and really channeling for good. So make sure to go check out them in the show notes down below. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Talk of the Town. This is a podcast where we talk about all things media, creators, business, and more. My name is Tristin. I am the host of the podcast. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. If you are returning from previous episodes, thank you so much for tuning in. In this episode, we have a really special guest, someone who I've been very fortunate to be connected with over the last couple months and really built a admiration for what she's building. Jessica, introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on, Tristin. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm the co-founder of MintStars, and we are a content subscription platform to help creators and models earn more from their content and have greater control over their earnings and their content. We enable fans to subscribe to their favorite creators and receive all their content as NFTs, which they can resell on our marketplace with the creator earning royalties.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you for, again, agreeing to be on the podcast. Talk a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So I'm currently a PhD student in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And my research focuses broadly on women's rights and labor rights. Increasingly, I've become interested in the future of work and capitalism and the platform economy. And I started out my research career as an undergrad at Duke doing research on human trafficking. And then I very quickly became interested in sex workers' rights and began doing research on sex work in Latin America. Then I went and did my master's in international development at the University of Cambridge, where I continued doing research in that area. I worked in politics for a little bit on Stacey Abrams' campaign for governor. I'm originally from Georgia and also very passionate about politics. And then I went to work for a women's rights law firm in the UK called McAllister Oliverius, which is a very unique firm that represents victims of employment discrimination, sexual harassment, child sexual abuse, and non-consensual pornography. And through that work, I began to look a lot more at the online space and the treatment of women online. So we worked with a lot of women who faced sexual harassment online or who had had their intimate images shared without their consent. But then I also started looking at the online sex work space and seeing how much financial discrimination online sex workers faced. So frequently they get their PayPal accounts shut down, they can't use Venmo, they get their Cash App accounts shut down, and also they are discriminated against by most social media platforms. So most of them get deplatformed from Instagram and end up being very reliant on sites like OnlyFans or on cam sites, which take 20 to 50 to even 70% of their earnings pre-tax. And then OnlyFans announced in October 2021 that they were going to ban sex workers from the platform because of pressure from their banks and their payment processors. And a lot of the creators that I follow were really panicking that they were going to lose their livelihoods. And so I began thinking about how to combat this financial discrimination and provide creators a better alternative. And that in combination with also seeing my younger sister's experiences as a professional model, getting very burnt out with having to post content on Instagram all the time for which she was not getting paid directly, motivated me to try to create a better solution. And my co-founder and I began talking about problems with existing platforms and the need for a solution that would put creators' interests first.
I mean, absolutely, a really amazing story, and I agree with you. The way that a lot of people in the online sex content space have been really hit hard over the last year or two by a lot of the pressure from payment companies, from social media platforms. It's something that we still see even today with people who do cosplay, or even more edgier type of content getting deplatformed off TikTok consistently. So I certainly agree with you that it's a really great thing that you guys are building this platform for people. Talk about some of the early challenges of building a startup like this. What are some of the things that you learned building MintStars that you look back on and glad that you were able to solve those?
Great question. So I think when we first started out, we faced a very big hurdle because neither my co-founder or I were crypto natives. We were both pretty new to the blockchain space, and so there was a lot of learning to do. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome because I had also never worked in business before. My co-founder had, but so at first I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And I've quickly found that if you set your mind to something, you can learn it quite quickly. And now we're a year and a half in, and I feel like, oh, I actually kind of know what I'm doing now. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've faced and that we knew we were going to face from the start was payment processing, because traditional payment processors generally have clauses that prevent high risk industries, quote unquote. And that includes adult content, that includes marijuana, gambling, a lot of other things. But it even applies to companies that do like sex education or even sex toys, anything that's kind of in that sex positive space. And it makes it very difficult for small businesses working in those industries. So we knew that we were going to need to come up with a clever solution that other companies had not done yet. And after speaking with a lot of different processors, examining different possibilities with crypto, we knew we wanted to leverage the possibility of crypto to eliminate financial discrimination, eliminate the bottlenecks of those centralized financial institutions. But we also wanted to be highly accessible to people who had never used crypto before, because it could be very intimidating. And we also wanted to make sure that it was a safe and stable way of receiving payments so that people didn't have to worry about the volatility of the crypto market or about losing their money, about being scammed. And so we came up with the solution to use fiat to crypto on rampers so that users could easily pay with a credit or debit card, to top up a wallet with USDC, because USDC is considered kind of the most secure stable coin. And we knew that we could then guarantee our users that their funds were genuinely backed by real US dollars. And so our goal is really to keep the crypto elements on the back end and enable as much as possible for the customers to feel like they're just paying in normal dollars, while providing the creators the benefit of eliminating chargebacks, giving them full control over their funds. So we give all our users a self-custodied crypto wallet so that when a fan makes a payment, the payment goes directly from their wallet to the creator's wallet, and then the creator can cash that out at any time. They can send it to another wallet, or they can send it to their bank account, and don't have to worry about their funds being frozen with us if, say, we were to lose our payment processor or our bank account, or if we were to go bust.
Yeah, I mean, this is even something like recently where you and I were talking about this, where like Wire, which has really been one of the big fiat, crypto dealers, recently just went through its own turmoil. Look, you and I in Twitter were, suggesting things of different platforms, and which was really eye opening to a lot of me, where it was like, you know, finding out like, Circle doesn't allow it, MoonPay doesn't allow these types of things, like all sorts of different um crypto problems exist, especially with the intersection of this space. So I think it's really, obviously a difficult challenge, right? I think the way that you guys are handling it with making sure that there's no room for chargebacks, there's no room for people to be um or at least mitigating the risk of people being, taken advantage of, having images leaked. Like, I think that's a really commendable thing, right? Because it's one of those things that has hurt creators of all kinds, and even more mainstream celebrities as well.
Yeah, we want to provide a solution that will be a platform for all kinds of creators, not only adult content creators, although we are building around their needs. But we really believe if you build a platform that works well for the most marginalized people, then you build a platform that is safe and welcoming for everyone. So one aspect of the platform that we think is going to be really helpful for creators across the creator economy is when we've spoken to creators in all kinds of different sectors, YouTubers, Instagram models, like my younger sister who's a model, adult content creators, they all tell you one of their biggest problems is burnout. They feel that they're on this hamster wheel where they have to be constantly churning out content and more is expected of them. And there's this race to the bottom because everyone is trying to put out as much content as they possibly can. And their fans are always expecting more. And they have to spend 10 to 30 hours a week on trying to market themselves. So an aspect that I really like of using NFTs is that it creates some value in scarcity. So, and it also creates a more circular type of economy and potentially a more sustainable relationship to content. Because if when you post a piece of content, your fan receives it as an NFT that they can resell, then there's a longevity to that content because we only give the NFT to the fans who are subscribed at the time the creator posts that content. So if you subscribe to a creator later, you won't get their early content. If you wanted to get that early content, you would have to buy it from another fan on the marketplace. And so what that means is over time, that early content, which is scarce, can go up in value, continue to make money for the creator beyond the money they would have made from just their subscription fee. And so creators can focus more on putting out high quality content that is going to have a high resale value rather than quantity and having to post 24/7 because their older content can continue to make money for them. And the other aspect of it is that it incentivizes the fans to market the creators, to go out and promote that creator to other people, because the fans also make money when the creator grows in popularity. Since the fans own this asset that they can resell, they're almost like investors in the creator's success. And so now, instead of the creator having to do all of this marketing by themselves, they have like a little army of promoters who are out there spreading the word about them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a very um commendable, like, aspect of things. And seeing the way you guys are handling it, and especially utilizing NFTs in a way where it actually creates tangible value, right? Because this is one of the things that, like, crypto and Web3 get a lot of flack for, is that NFTs are a penny a dozen, and unfortunately, only 1 or 2% of them actually really provide a genuine value. Whereas, like, now you see a lot of creator focused startups, and a lot of creator projects are focusing on using NFTs in order to create one of a kind experiences with people, creating content that's exclusive, all sorts of different things. So I certainly see where the vision is. As far as the overall creator space, like, what is your take on how the creator space has sort of like evolved over the last couple years? Because it feels like it's changing almost every week. Something new is being disrupted. There's competition in almost every area. what do you see from your side as a founder?
That's a good question. I think we're in a sort of weird, almost like holding period in the creator economy, because I think in the past decade is when the creator economy really surged and emerged as this huge force, and everyone has seen, oh, wow, this is actually going to be a massive part of the economy. And like, I think there was a survey of Gen Zers that found that the number one job that Gen Zers aspired to have was to be a content creator, which is really fascinating. Um, and that to also see that that's where they're getting most of their entertainment. Um, However, I think with the end of the pandemic now, and also like with prices surging, we're seeing maybe a little bit of a slowdown in the growth of the creator economy, along with a decline in social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter having turmoil, Facebook having turmoil, and TikTok surging. And so I think there's a lot of room for disruption right now because so many creators are so frustrated with existing platforms and with how they've been changing their algorithms in a way that's really not transparent to the creators and doesn't reward the creators or pay them fairly. So I think what is going to succeed in the next decade in the creator space is those platforms which are best compensating creators. Now, that's part of the reason I think why TikTok has been successful with creators, because they were initially compensating creators a lot better than some of the other platforms. I think now creators are starting to get more frustrated with them. And this is an area where I think this is part of why people have been excited about the potential of NFTs for creators, because it has so much more monetization potential, puts ownership in the hands of the creator rather than the tech company, and helping to reduce the power of those intermediaries. And there was a report by, I think it was A16Z last year, that showed just a astronomical larger earnings that creators had received from NFTs than from any of these other platforms, which pay them like, a couple dollars for a video that gets millions and millions of views. So that's something I think we'll move towards. I also think we're moving away from models that reward audience size and towards models that reward more true fan loyalty. Right? So focusing on having 100 true fans rather than having a million followers. That's something that I would like to see more, and that will enable, I think, more equality of opportunity in the content creation space versus the model we have right now, which is so unequal that only the top 1% of creators really make a living and the rest are making poverty wages.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's something I see myself as a creator all the time where, it's, I jokingly refer to like survival of the fittest, where it's every creator for themselves. Like, 10 years ago, creators weren't afraid to help out another creator to try to help them grow and try to, elevate, everyone. And then now it's like, everyone is sort of like walking on eggshells, being like, I want to help you, but at the same time, it's like, I'm trying to grow my brand and get bigger than you. So it's a whole nightmare that I think it has been happening over time. And as well, I agree with you. There's going to be sort of this culling of different startups and a lot of mergings that will happen. Whether it's with the link in bio space, whether it's with within the creator side of the Web3, whether it's in the merch space, the SaaS space. Like, I think that there's so many different things, and even we're seeing it now where it's like, you know, uh, influencer companies are acquiring, SaaS or like analytics companies to then help, content creators. So it's happening like at a really rapid pace. Um, in terms of, and this is sort of a speculative question, what do you think the future looks like for content creators, right? Do you see more content creators, um, sort of taking on, the sort of uh, quasi role of being like a founder, where they really start, valuing and looking at themselves as not just an influencer or a content creator, but more of leveraging their audience to build or grow brands, or starting their own entrepreneurial endeavors?
Good question. And if you don't mind, I want to go back to what you said before first about competition between creators and collaboration. That's another thing that I'm very excited about in the blockchain space, that it enables the possibility to better attribute the contributions of each person to a piece of content. So one thing that we would like to move towards is enabling fractional NFT ownership. So meaning, let's say there are two creators who produced a video together. You could code into the smart contract that, say, 60% of the royalty fee will go to this creator and 40% will go to the other creator. And they could mutually agree that ahead of time based on who put in the most work. And so that helps to address some of the existing problems on platforms like OnlyFans or Patreon or whatever, where the creators have to kind of agree offline on how they're gonna distribute the funds. But then let's say they post it from their own profile, and then that creator, reneges on their prior agreement to pay the other person who contributed to that content, and there's a breakdown of trust there. When you put it on chain, you can ensure that every person who was a part of making that content will get compensated fairly, not only the first time the content is sold, but ongoing. So that's something really cool, and I think that will enable a much more collaborative space and enable creators to mutually benefit from each other's success. As far as your question about what's going to happen for creators, I think this is tied into my thoughts about how the internet is likely going to change in the next 10 years as we move to Web3 and more decentralized models. One thing I'm very excited about is the potential for decentralized social graphs, like what Lens Protocol is doing, to address the problem that so many creators face, that they build up a following on one social media platform like Instagram, but then if they want to go on Twitter, they have to start from scratch and they can't have their followers follow them. They're really very dependent on the tech company to be able to connect with those followers. I think we're going to see a separation of those two things, where creators have greater ownership over their followers, and they can have their followers follow them across platforms. And I think that will give a lot more power to creators to leverage control over the companies and the social media platforms themselves, because it will be easier for them to threaten to leave a platform if the platform is not acting in their best interests. They will have less to lose. So yeah, I think moving towards less control from intermediaries, greater individual power for creators, and likely greater say from the fans as well. So enabling fans to vote on what kinds of content the creator puts out. Some people are very excited about creator social tokens. I'm a little more skeptical about whether that model is going to succeed, but I do think we're going to see more contribution from fans, more direct relationship between creators and their fans, because they maybe won't need as much volume of fans as much as they do just loyalty of fans. And I'm also excited about the possibility for fans to become curators of content. So on MintStars, one thing that we would love to move towards is enabling fans to kind of show off their gallery of what content they own, and have other fans contact that fan directly if they want to purchase something from that fan owns. And so that could enable fans who are, say, enthusiasts of, yoga. They might follow all the yoga creators and collect the best yoga content. And then other fans who are also interested in yoga could follow that fan. And so creating more relationships between fans, so that it's not only a one-way relationship between the creator and a lot of fans, but there's also more of a network in between fans who have similar interests.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big criticisms of creators in the Web3 space, and I think we've seen this really a lot, unfortunately, over the last year and a half, is a lot of big name influencers, whether it be like the Logan Pauls of the world or others out there who look at crypto as a way to get rich, utilize their audience, pump and dump, or do all sorts of these things. What is I guess, like, sort of two questions in this. What is your take on how people in the Web3 space can combat that type of behavior, and also where do you see um like things for creators sort of becoming more ethically, that hey, if you're going to launch a creator token, if you're going to launch an NFT project, that you actually do it with the right intentions, that you're not trying to harm your audience or harm others out there.
I think that's something that the Web3 community is already very good about and paying very close attention to. So we've seen examples where big name celebrities thought that they could make a bunch of money off of launching an NFT. I think Chris Brown is an example, maybe. Like, they did this kind of NFT launch thinking like it would be just easy money. But because they didn't do it in a way that really consulted with the Web3 community, with existing NFT collectors, and also which really engaged with what their fans wanted to see, it was a total failure. Whereas artists who maybe don't have that celebrity name recognition, but who have really engaged long term with the community, built relationships and trust, are able to be very successful and build much more sustainable businesses for themselves off of just a few collectors who like what they're doing and want to almost act like patrons for their art. So I think that will be how it happens, is sort of through the community rewarding or punishing people who engage in that behavior. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of scams because the space has been so speculative, and I think it's been kind of like a gold rush where people just went, oh my God, like I can make money this way, I have to get into it. Even if I don't understand it, I have to grab a piece of the pie so I don't miss out. Now that there's been kind of a upsurge and then a crash again, I think people are much more wary, and hopefully, fingers crossed, will be more careful in the future about what they get into.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I talk about it very openly that last year, I mean, I've always been super bullish on crypto and Web3, and I sank several hundreds of dollars into a metaverse NFT digital tiles project. And by like the summer of last year, I kind of looked at myself and I'm like, you're normally very smart, Tristan. Like, how did you fall for this? Like, I think it's a very like hard look in the mirror type of thing for a lot of people to realize, like, there's sort of, again, like you mentioned, that speculative nature where everyone's like, the fear of FOMO, and if it's like, oh, if I don't get in now, if I don't buy this item, if I don't buy this, square tile of land, if I don't buy, this, access key, then I'm going to be left out in the dust. Right. So, like, I think you bring up some really good, points on that. Um, this is the point in time with the podcast where I like to turn the tables over to you, let you become the host and bring up questions or topics that you want to talk about, or get my perspective on. So, Jessica, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Tristan. I guess my question for you would be, what do you want to see as a creator happen in the creator space in the next 5 years? And what would you say is your biggest challenge or pain point right now?
So there's a couple different challenges I see. I think the biggest one, and I talk about this a lot with creator focused startups, is that these startups are focused, or they're building for creators, but they're not necessarily thinking or interacting like a creator. I talk about this a lot of times where I went to TwitchCon recently, and I did a booth for a company I work with, and they had this intern who was giving a sales pitch, to creators about why they should use this link in bio that had all these amazing features. And I had to pull him aside as someone who had been using the platform for years, who has been a creator for 10 years, and saying, you're giving a sales pitch to creators who can see through that a mile away. You're not, interacting with these people and not actually trying to relate to them. The creator space is a lot smarter than people make it out to be. uh, and so I think that's one challenge. I think on top of that, really creating opportunities for creators of all sizes to grow their opportunities, right? You sort of see it right now where only the bigger influencers and people with like a million to 100 million are really able to get into venture capital deals, or start up like venture funds or invest in the companies. And I think it has a little bit to do with regulation as well in the United States. But I think it'd be nice to see a lot of companies open up crowd funds, or really start rewarding creators in whole with a little bit of equity in a company, even if it's a micro thing, where it's something, let's say for every piece of content you're creating, you get 0.005% equity in a company. I think it's or even just for utilizing the platform, I think would be a great way towards that. And I think on the other side of things, um, where I see the creator space really needing the most help is really trying to find ways to help elevate creators. Because let's be fair, a lot of small creators are stuck in this bind where it's like, we're trying to understand the algorithm. We're trying to keep up with the bigger creators who already hound the market. And it's like, if they already control the content space and we can't grow, it's kind of like it's really hard to grow. So that's sort of where I see
Yeah,
things.
I'm very excited about the model that you mentioned about equity sharing. We had a really cool meeting this past week with a new startup called OwnCo, which is working on trying to help startups do this through allocating a portion of their cap table to create kind of an options pool for their users, and then creating a virtual token, not a crypto token, but just a virtual token that represents a portion of those options and is tied to them legally, which you can then use as rewards on the platform in the way that you mentioned. So if users post consistently, or if a fan subscribes to a creator for a certain amount of time, you could reward them with just a little bit of tokens, which then represent options. That's something I'm super excited about, and we're looking into the possibility of introducing something like that at MintStars in the future.
Yeah, I mean, when we had a conversation a while back about the different ways of rewarding creators, like you and I really clicked on that, right? Whether it was, hey, doing equity crowdfund like you see with a lot of social platforms doing right now, or a lot of Web3 companies doing, and as well, like even a reward for post, kind of trade system that you see with like traditionally in the music industry, with music rights and things of that nature. I think is a really um, interesting thing. And ultimately I think it'll help out creators a lot. I understand, I come from a background where I'm more of a creator, don't really think about traditional finance or venture. And I've always had this sort of belief where it's like, you know I see companies that'll get investment from tier one or tier two firms and then do a crowdfunding, whereas like others are like, oh, we're scared of doing that because the cap table gets too messy, or people don't want to see so many investors on a sheet. And I'm like, why not? It's like, if you're building a creator focused company, or community focused startup, like why are you not going to leverage that audience to do that, right? There are social media platforms out there like Fanbase right now who have collectively raised like $80 million, that are raising millions of dollars right now on Start Engine. There's all, Beacons itself ran a crowdfund. These are all the things that I spent a lot of time like trying to break that psyche with founders about. So I certainly agree with you on that perspective. Did it, Jessica? Are you still
Oh,
here?
sorry, my internet froze for a little bit. Yeah, I think you're totally right about that. And I'm excited about any type of model that breaks up the old school boys club traditional financing model, which puts all of the power into the hands of venture capitalists and just funnels money from everyday people to the wealthy. Now, there's a little bit of that that has to happen if you want to be competitive in the market because we live in a capitalist economy, which creates constraints on companies such that they have to play the game and be part of the rat race or else they will fail. It's very frustrating. But I do think that there, especially something I'm excited about in the blockchain space, is how it's moving towards this model of democratizing ownership and how much people are really ideologically invested in that. I think there's this real cult around Web3 and blockchain about community ownership and decentralization that sometimes is just a facade for VCs to make more money, and but there's an extent to which it's really genuine and something that people believe and are committed to. So that I'm really excited about that. I think it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen gradually as people start to realize that there are other options for them. And in the long run, moving towards a more democratic economy online and in general.
Absolutely. Any other questions or topics that you want to talk about?
I would just love to share that MintStars is now live. We went live a month ago and we're in beta testing now. So anyone who wants to check it out can go to our website, mintstars.com, and sign up to our wait list. And we'll send you an invite. Right now, we're open for fans to join, and we're sending out invites on a daily basis. Creators, we're inviting by invitation. So if you're interested, if you're a creator, you can set up a call with us, and we would love to show you the platform and tell you how you can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess moving from there, ultimately, what does the future look like for you guys, as a company? Like, are there certain milestones that you hope to achieve, or is it really just kind of moving 1% day by day?
I think right now we're very early. We're in the testing phase. So my goal now is we've had really good uptake from creators. We have a lot of creators on the platform. I now want to focus on bringing their fans on board and communicating to fans why MintStars is a better option for them than what they're currently using and how they can also make money from supporting creators on MintStars. And then beyond that, it's continuing to build out new features and improve the platform. Bring it first to the status of being on par with existing platforms and then surpassing those platforms with new features that are not available elsewhere, are novel, and continuing to make our design more and more intuitive. We're very focused on UI UX. We want the platform to be easy to use for someone who has no education about crypto whatsoever. I think we've done very well with that so far, but there's even more we can do to make it easier.
Absolutely. And I think you guys have had such like a great rise, so far, at least in the journey, getting people interested in MinStars and the traction of it, and I think the sky is the limit for you guys, because you've raised all the team at MinStars. From the second that I found out about you guys, I could see that there is something special about all of you. So I really hope for all the success that you guys have, and everything in the coming weeks, months, and years, and everything.
Thank you so much, Tristan. Your support means a lot to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're wrapping up the podcast. I know you already plugged MinStars, but the last thing I kind of want to ask is ultimately, what does the future look like for you in the next year or two? And where do you see MinStars being able to go?
The future for me, well, we're about to close our pre-seed funding round, which is very exciting. Have a couple of really exciting investments that we'll be announcing soon. I'm very happy to be done with that because I want to be focused 100% on talking to our creators and their fans and improving the product. I'm also still doing my PhD, so I'm taking some really cool classes right now. I also just signed up for this course through the New School on platform co-ops, which I'm really excited to join and learn about how other platforms are dealing with shared ownership questions. And I'll be continuing to kind of do my research alongside running MintStars and building out our team. So I'm looking forward to growing the team, bringing more engineers on board, and also seeing how I can write about what we're doing simultaneously alongside my research, which will probably continue to explore questions around sex work, the informal economy, shared ownership, putting power into the hands of marginalized workers.
Well, absolutely. And Jessica, I wish you all the best of luck, both with, obviously going through the PhD. Like, that is no small task. I'm still in community college, and I think if I was going for a PhD, I'd probably be ripping my hair out right now.
I do a lot
So,
of ripping my hair out.
but like at the end of the day, it's super commendable and respectable. Like going and through that endeavor, and as well again what you built with MintStars at the same time. It really speaks a lot to your passion, tenacity, all those sorts of things. For those listening to the podcast, make sure to go check out MintStars. I'm signing up for the platform as well. Like, and I think what they're doing is really amazing. Building a place, like Jessica mentioned earlier, not just for people in the adult content space, but for people of all, types of content niches and focus areas. Like, I think it's something that's really great and beneficial, especially like given the changes in the creator space. And I'll make sure to leave uh, MintStar's website in the show notes as well as the social media. But again, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on to the
Thank
podcast.
you, Tristin. And if anyone listening has questions, we're very responsive on DMs. We're very active on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok. So feel free to reach out. We love to hear your feedback and try to make the platform as tailored as much as possible to your needs.
Absolutely. And for those listening to the podcast that want to follow on social media, the podcast is on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, that being Talk of Town Pod. Going to be having a lot of amazing guests on throughout this year, continuing with a lot of amazing content and stories and talking to people. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys. But with that being said, this is the end of the episode. Again, if you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and share. And with that being said, my name is Tristan, the host of the podcast, and we'll see all of you in the next.